3 weeks passed after the breakup. I lived in silence, surrounded by empty rooms and fading memories. The wedding invitations sat in a drawer, useless reminders of what almost was. Friends texted, asking what happened, but I ignored most of them. Explaining heartbreak felt impossible when I barely understood it myself. Rachel finally texted me, asking to meet and settle the financial stuff. We met at a quiet cafe downtown, neutral ground for two strangers in mourning. She looked different, calmer, lighter, almost relieved. I ordered black coffee. She chose an oat milk latte with too many syrups. The awkwardness between us was thick enough to choke on. We opened the shared wedding account on our phones. $29,000. We had saved together for nearly 2 years, dreaming of a perfect day. Now it was just numbers on a screen, waiting to be divided. 14.5 each, she said softly, sliding her phone toward me. I nodded and transferred her share without hesitation. Half of our future, gone with a few taps on a screen. Then she reached into her purse and placed something on the table. The ring. It caught the sunlight, sparkling like it was mocking me. You should have this back, she said, not meeting my eyes. I took it, cold metal against my skin, and pocketed it without a word. There were no long goodbyes, no dramatic speeches. Just two people, dividing the remains of a dream. Driving home, I felt the weight of finality sink in. That ring once meant forever. Now it meant nothing, but lost time and empty promises. The apartment felt even smaller that night. Her bookshelves were gone, her photos removed, her scent fading. It was like she had never lived there at all. Bills piled on the counter, and silence filled every corner. I stared at the ring again, wondering if I should sell it. Maybe let it go the way I let her go. My friend Jake showed up with pizza and 2 beers. He didn't ask questions, just sat with me in the quiet. After a while, he looked at the ring and said, "That's a lot of money sitting there." I laughed bitterly. Not enough to buy back 5 years. He shrugged. Maybe enough to buy you a new start. The words stuck with me long after he left. A new start. Something inside me shifted that night. I realized I could keep drowning in what I lost, or build something new. Rachel wanted to find herself. Maybe I needed to do the same, but in my own way. I made a decision before dawn. The ring, the savings, the money we built together, it wouldn't rot in my drawer. It would become something real, something mine. The next morning, I called a pawn shop and asked for an appraisal. They offered $6,800. I said yes without hesitation. That was the day I stopped being a man left behind and started becoming the man who would rebuild from the ashes. Jake came over the next evening with blueprints and wild energy in his eyes. He had always talked about starting a business together. A small construction company, nothing fancy, just honest work. "You've got brains," he said. "I've got the hands, we could make it work." I stared at the notes scattered across my table. All I had left were numbers, money that once meant love. 14,000 from the wedding fund, 20 from savings, 6 from the ring. $40,000 to my name, and nothing to lose. It sounded insane, reckless, maybe even desperate. But maybe that's exactly what I needed. Jake grinned. "Think about it, man, you're free now, no ties, no fear." That night I didn't sleep. I made lists, budgets, calls, sketches. By sunrise, I decided. We were doing this. We registered the name, J&E Construction, 2 days later. Jake and Ethan. Simple, clean, easy to remember. We bought a used Ford truck with 90,000 miles. It smelled like sweat and engine oil, but it was ours. We picked up tools from Home Depot, one cart at a time. Drills, saws, ladders, hammers, everything we could afford. We found a small storage unit and turned it into our base. No office, no staff, just 2 men with one stubborn dream. I quit my job at the construction firm where I'd worked for 7 years. My boss offered a raise, maybe even a promotion next year. But I'd already made my choice. For the first time in months, I felt alive again. The first project came from one of Jake's old clients, an elderly couple who needed a kitchen rewired for new appliances. We charged $800, finished in 2 days. They paid in cash and baked us cookies as a thank you. It felt ridiculous how proud I was of that small envelope. But it wasn't about the money. It was proof that I could still build something. Word spread faster than we expected. Neighbors called, friends of friends called. Little jobs at first, painting, fixing fences, remodeling bathrooms. We worked 14 hours a day, 7 days a week. No weekends, no vacations, no time to think. Every dollar went back into the company. I moved into a studio apartment to save rent. Jake and I used the kitchen table as our office. We printed flyers, built a website, knocked on doors. People liked that we showed up on time and cleaned up after ourselves. Apparently, that alone made us different. By the end of 6 months, we had more work than we could handle. We hired 2 part-timers to help with bigger projects. For the first time since the breakup, I didn't wake up empty. I didn't think about Rachel. I thought about contracts, permits, lumber prices. The pain was still there, but it had a purpose now. Every nail, every beam, every late night. It was all a step away from who I used to be. I wasn't rebuilding a life for someone else anymore. I was building a life for me. The first year was brutal. We worked through heat, rain, and exhaustion. Every morning started before sunrise and ended long after midnight. There were weeks when we barely had enough to cover materials. Jake handled the wiring. I managed the paperwork and clients. We were learning by doing, failing fast, and getting back up again. Our truck broke down twice in the same month. We used my old Civic to haul paint cans and wooden planks. I ate ramen and peanut butter sandwiches for dinner every night. But every time we finished a job, the pride made it worth it. We treated each customer like they were our only one. We showed up on time, explained everything clearly, cleaned up perfectly. People started talking about us, recommending us to neighbors. That was how we survived, word of mouth. No ads, no fancy marketing, just hard work and trust. After 8 months, we finally had steady contracts lined up. It felt surreal to see our schedule booked weeks in advance. We hired a retired carpenter named Mark and a young apprentice, Alex. They were loyal, hardworking, and believed in the dream. With their help, we stopped working ourselves into the ground. By the end of the first year, J&E Construction made a small profit. It wasn't much, but it was honest and it was ours. I still lived in that small studio apartment. The walls were thin, the bed creaked, but it was home. I no longer looked at the empty space beside me in bed. The silence didn't hurt as much as it used to. Rachel's name hadn't crossed my lips in months. I heard from mutual friends that she was in Europe. Some artist she met online, living the free life she always wanted. Good for her, I thought. For the first time, I actually meant it. Meanwhile, I was building something that mattered. Something that couldn't walk away in one night. The business became my therapy, my purpose. Each project healed a part of me I thought was gone forever. Every nail driven into wood felt like reclaiming a piece of my soul. We moved into a small office after our second big project. 800 square feet, 2 desks, 1 coffee machine. Jake called it the empire. I laughed, but secretly, it did feel like the beginning of one. We started getting commercial clients, restaurants, property managers. They liked our reliability, our no-nonsense approach. By the end of year 2, we had 10 employees and real momentum. We weren't rich, but we were free. I woke up excited instead of tired. The company had become more than just work. It was proof that failure could be fuel. That love lost could become something stronger than heartbreak. When the local paper called for an interview about small business success, I said yes. They took our picture in front of the office. Jake and I stood there, smiling like fools, covered in paint and sweat. For once, life felt steady. I thought the past was buried for good. But life has a strange way of testing you, just when you think you've moved on. The newspaper article came out on a Wednesday morning. It featured our story under the title, From Rock Bottom to Rising Strong. There was a photo of Jake and me standing in front of our office. Both of us were smiling like we had finally made it. My phone started buzzing nonstop before I even reached the office. Texts from friends, old coworkers, even my sister. Proud of you, Ethan. Saw you in the paper. It felt surreal, like validation for every sleepless night we endured. Then a message popped up from an unknown number. Saw the article. You look great. I froze. The words were simple, but I knew that tone instantly. Rachel. 2 years of silence, shattered by one short sentence. I didn't reply. An hour later, another text arrived. I've been thinking about us lately, about everything. Still, I said nothing. Jake looked over my shoulder, saw the name and frowned. Block her, he said flatly. Nothing good comes from the past. I wanted to. But curiosity is a dangerous thing. A few days passed, then came the long message. She said she'd made a terrible mistake. Her mother had filled her head with doubts about marriage. The artist she ran off with had drained her savings and left her. Now she was back home, working retail, living with her parents. She ended with one line that made me laugh out loud. I see the man you've become, Ethan. I want to be part of what you're building. Not I miss you, not I'm sorry, just part of what you're building. It wasn't love she wanted. It was a seat on the train she'd abandoned. I showed the text to Jake, and he shook his head. Man, she's circling because she smells success. I didn't respond to her messages, but the silence didn't stop her. A week later, her mother, Linda, emailed the company. Subject line, a mother's concern. The email was polite, manipulative, and dripping with false warmth. She praised our business, mentioned how proud Rachel was of me, then hinted that maybe her daughter's emotional support had inspired my success. It was clear what she meant. Rachel deserved a share. We ignored it, thinking they'd give up. But then Rachel started appearing everywhere. At my favorite cafe. At the hardware store. At the bank. Always smiling, always pretending it was coincidence. The final confrontation happened at a business mixer. I was talking to a potential client when she tapped my shoulder. Ethan, can we talk? Just 5 minutes. I stepped outside with her. She started crying the second the door closed. I was scared, she said. I ruined everything, I want us back. I stayed silent until she finished. Rachel, I said finally, you gave up that right when you left. Her tears stopped instantly. She straightened up, her tone colder. That was our money, Ethan. I deserve a part of this. I laughed. You had your part. You spent it backpacking across Europe. She glared, speechless. I walked away, leaving her in the parking lot. Jake met me at the door, jaw tight. This isn't over, is it? I shook my head. Not even close. It started quietly at first. An email came into our company inbox one morning. The sender claimed to be Patricia Williams from a major development firm. She said she'd heard about Jay and E-Construction through the newspaper. She asked if we handled commercial projects worth hundreds of thousands. Jake took the call, his voice buzzing with excitement. Finally, a big client. She asked for references to verify our credibility. Jake gave her 2 trusted clients we'd worked with for years. We didn't think twice. A week later, one of those clients called me, sounding uneasy. Ethan, I got a strange email about you. You should see it. He forwarded it to me. Reading it felt like being punched in the gut. The message accused me of stealing money from my ex-fiancée. It said I'd manipulated her emotionally to take funds for my business. It claimed I pressured her, while she was too distraught to think clearly. The email contained just enough real details to sound believable. Dates, amounts, even my company's launch timeline. Someone had gone through serious effort to destroy me. I called Jake, my voice shaking with anger. He didn't need to ask who was behind it. Rachel and her mother. It was obvious. They were trying to ruin everything I'd built. I contacted both clients personally, explained the situation. Thankfully, they trusted me enough to believe my side. But the damage was done. Doubt lingers even after truth arrives. That night, Jake and I sat in the office, staring at the wall. "This isn't just petty revenge," he said. "They're trying to kill the business." He was right. I needed help beyond hard work and good intentions. The next morning, I hired a lawyer named Daniel Brooks. Calm, confident, and sharp as a blade. After hearing the story, he nodded slowly. "They've crossed into criminal territory," he said. "Impersonation, defamation, business interference. We'll handle this." Within 48 hours, he drafted cease and desist letters. They were sent by certified mail to both Rachel and Linda. Every detail was documented: emails, phone calls, client messages. The letters made it clear. One more move and we'd sue immediately. For a few days, silence returned. Then, a new storm hit. A process server appeared at my office door. I was being sued. Rachel was demanding her $14,500 back plus damages for emotional distress. She accused me of coercion and unfair division of assets. I laughed bitterly reading the complaint. She was rewriting history again, trying to turn guilt into profit. Daniel looked over the papers, unimpressed. "They just handed us their own destruction," he said. We gathered everything: bank transfers, text messages, call logs. Proof that she'd accepted her share willingly and left for Europe days later. Daniel built the defense meticulously, step by step. I focused on work, while he prepared to dismantle her lies. But inside, anger boiled under the surface. It wasn't just about money anymore. It was about everything I had rebuilt being dragged through the mud. Rachel had already broken my heart once. Now she wanted to break my future. I promised myself one thing as I locked the office that night. This time, she wouldn't win. The lawsuit dragged on for months. But Daniel handled it like a man playing chess, not checkers. He said from the start, "We win this with patience and paper." Every document, every receipt, every text message mattered. He built a wall of evidence, higher than their lies could climb. Rachel's side claimed I manipulated her during the breakup. They said I took advantage of her emotional state. But the truth was clear in black and white. Bank records showed 2 equal transfers, $14,500 each. Her signature, her confirmation, her acceptance. Then Daniel uncovered her travel records. She had booked flights to Paris 3 days before our meeting. The same meeting, where she pretended to be shocked about the split. Her emotional distress began with a European vacation. At the deposition, Daniel's questions were surgical. He asked, "Ms. Adams, did you willingly accept the funds transferred to you?" She hesitated, then said yes. "Did you travel to Europe within 10 days of receiving that money?" Another pause. "Yes." The color drained from her face as Daniel produced screenshots. Her social media posts from Paris, dated before the account division. Her lawyer objected, but it didn't matter. The truth was already bleeding through the cracks. Then came the phone logs. Calls traced back to her mother's number, pretending to be clients. The fake Patricia Williams voice, the one that fooled Jake. We even had the recording. Sarah, our receptionist, had kept it. When the playback hit the courtroom, the silence was deafening. It was Linda's voice. The judge leaned back, unimpressed, already seeing the pattern. Fraud, harassment, defamation. Rachel's lawyer whispered something, and she looked ready to collapse. A week later, they withdrew the lawsuit entirely. But Daniel wasn't done. He filed for sanctions, demanding they pay our full legal costs. He argued that their claims were malicious and baseless. The judge agreed without hesitation. The ruling hit them like a hammer. $19,000 owed in legal fees. The exact amount Rachel had once demanded from me. It was poetic justice. News spread fast in our small business community. People who once believed her poor heartbroken girl story went silent. No one wanted to work with her or her mother again. Their reputation turned to ash overnight. I heard later they had to take a second mortgage on their house. Rachel moved back home, working long shifts at a retail store. The same woman who once said she deserved better. Meanwhile, J&E Construction landed its biggest project yet. A $180,000 renovation for a new medical building. We grew to 15 employees, solid, respected, unstoppable. I bought my first house that same year. Nothing fancy, but mine, bought with honest work and peace of mind. I started dating again, a nurse named Emily Carter. She was kind, grounded, and completely uninterested in money. When I told her the whole story, she smiled softly. "Sounds like you dodged a bullet," she said. I laughed because she was right. Rachel sent me a friend request last week. It's still sitting there, unanswered. Some doors stay closed for a reason. The house is quiet now, but it feels full. Every wall, every corner carries the sound of effort, not regret. The business is thriving. The people around me are loyal and real. I wake up early each morning, not because I have to, but because I want to. Emily makes coffee while I pack tools for another day. There's laughter in the kitchen, where silence used to live. Sometimes I drive past the cafe, where Rachel gave me the ring back. I don't feel anger anymore, just distance. It's strange how peace feels heavier than pain, but warmer too. The life I dreamed of didn't come the way I expected. It came through loss, through failure, through letting go. I learned that success isn't revenge, it's survival with purpose. The world didn't end when she left. It began again, when I decided to build instead of break. Now I have a home, a future, and someone who chooses me every day. And somewhere in the past, that broken version of me finally smiles.